did cause damage, and so we can go out and measure that and come up with some different types of predictions, or try to help and say this variety will work, this variety won't work. This is what a trial might look like. The barley plots are looking like this right now. These are the small plots right here, and then these are strip plots of 5 acres each. And so we have different sort of hypotheses that are based on what we can pit up under a pivot. We have other types of studies going on on each one of the pivots. So each one's kind of trying to answer a hypothesis. For instance, what happens when you follow potatoes with barley? Is the residual nitrogen consumed? Barley doesn't need a whole lot of nitrogen if you're trying to get it for certain markets like the malted barley. So can potato extract nitrogen from the soil so we can minimize inputs, nitrogen inputs? Some just other examples. This large barley trial was harvested. It was partnered up with a malting facility in the Alamosa area, and this is what a malting facility looks like. And then, of course, we have the local crop brewing in New Mexico is a $300 million industry. So we also need to be conscious of the crops that we're working with and what's the end use, what's the market, what's the economic impact. Mentioned other specialty crops like hops that are being grown here. Some of the types of analysis, nutrient analysis that we do, looking at adaptability. What do we get? Something like a hermaphroditic response in one particular plot. This is not a good thing. This particular variety would not be recommended. Small scale producers need small-scaled, appropriately scaled equipment, so we can use research scale and transfer that over to small scale in terms of hop picking. This is just one example. With the small grains I mentioned, those are combined with larger scale equipment, and all the way up to what NAPI uses. You'll see that later. And then, of course, the end product, for some of this work is to try to support the New Mexico economy. Potatoes is another crop that we've got in the ground here. Those are planted in smaller plots and then surrounded by larger plots. The trials look at the size, the color, what impacts this might have to an end-use market. If it's fresh on the table, mashed potatoes, French fries, potato chips, there's always an end market to every crop that we're looking at, and trying to evaluate those criteria. This is a really fine potato growing region, and so it's a nice specialty crop for up here on this mesa. I mentioned the different colors, and this is in collaboration. It's not just our scientists. We work with Colorado State University and other public-private breeders. We try to have field days related to these crops. We have 1 or 2 specialty crop field days. We'll have lots of tours come in periodically, and then we try to have a field day every other year that we invite everyone to come up, have a barbecue lunch. Unfortunately, that was canceled due to COVID, but hopefully when we have our next field day, you'll get a sparked interest, and I invite you to come up. I mentioned some of the workshops. My colleague, Dr. Kofi Jamin's working with soil moisture probes. Those are going to be increasingly more important for being more precise with water applications. That's kind of the name of the game, is applying water very judiciously, and because it is a very precious resource here. Going along the lines of potato research, we also periodically will get requests to look at genetics that are from the Four Corners. These are native mega pop potatoes. They're native to the Four Corners, and these are what they look like. They're these are crosses. These are very small compared to your traditional tuber potato, but they have adaptability like cold tolerance and disease resistance, and they may be able to impart that those genetics for improving a crop trial or crop. Hemp is the big thing. Now hemp became legal in the state of New Mexico last year. Over 7,000 growers went into hemp. Not that many have gone back into it now. I think a lot of people learned some hard lessons, but we have an obligation to do technical research with hemp to try to help growers make informed decisions and hit the targets that growers are looking for. So we'll be adding a hemp specialist beginning next month who will be taking over that program. I mentioned this already. We do some agroforestry work. These are from poplar plots that have been harvested for pallet production. You know, is the market feasible? Those are questions that have to be answered as well. Can we penetrate local markets, or these actually got trucked down to El Paso. So that was for a pallet manufacturer down there. So those are some other questions that we answer. Again, you know, I mentioned our unique growing climate. This happens to be the growing zone for native New Mexico hops, for instance. Is there some kind of competitive advantage that New Mexico growers can use native plants for secondary markets? I mentioned the specialty crops. We do some cherries also. We get frost issues up here. So if we're to make recommendations on something like grapes, is it going to pan out? If a grower loses their whole entire crop due to a late spring frost, we need to be able to show that this variety will recover versus this variety is a complete failure, don't plant it. So that's another reason why this fundamental research is important. Just a shot of the vineyard with bird netting on it. I wanted to touch on other projects that get done off the Science Center. A lot of our projects are not physically located here. They're located in different communities. A grow box experiment, for instance, with students involved, meant evaluating backyard gardens all the way down to this 4-foot by 4-foot scale level, and then using soil moisture probes, looking at which grow boxes were better or worse, and being able to give some recommendations on that, and seeing what grow boxes hold more water. And so there are definitely differences in grow box construction. Just another example of why ag research is important. Backyard gardeners want to know what works for them. We partner up with various entities in the Valley, also NRCS, Cooperative Extension Office in Aztec, USDA office in Shiprock and Aztec, the IHS in Shiprock, and several other, Dene College, Navajo Technical University. So it's not just one unit. It's usually a collaborative effort between multiple stakeholders. Our Yago Garden project has been going on for a while now, and we're in schools, in 3rd and 4th grade schools. And this is really targeting behavior and access to fresh foods, fresh, healthy local foods. And it's being in partnership with the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. They're out of Seattle, Washington. So they're public health specialists, and they're helping us to design surveys and whatnot to measure perceptions and behavior change. But just some other examples. We've done some in the past with colon cancer. We had an individual that was based here and we have these periodic relationships with graduate students. So they come up here into Farmington, they come up with a research hypothesis. It doesn't have to be a graduate student from the College of Ag. We welcome anybody here. And this particular grad student was working with colon cancer. And so they were trying to see what were the obstacles for colon cancer screening. And they had this giant inflatable colon that you could actually walk through and see the different stages of colon cancer. So, yeah, hoop house constructions. We get some calls for technical assistance on this. So we built a few of these in schools now. This is out in Twin Lakes, which is in between Gallup and Sheep Springs kind of area down there. But yeah, it's a very, very diverse portfolio that we have here. Most of our projects a lot of our projects are supported through federal grants and contracts, state contracts. We also work with, as I said, seed companies, and yeah, wherever, whoever is interested in collaborating, give us a call. And, if you have a question that's related to agriculture and whatever, let's work together. Our site in Shiprock at the Dream Dene Charter School, this is behind the chapter house, and this was part of a pilot phase before what we're working on now, where we're in 6 schools. This was the pilot of that, to just kind of test the curriculum, see how it works, make the necessary changes, and then scale it up. Well, these projects are run through the Navajo Nation Human Research Review Board also, and that's important to us so that we're able to give the data back to the Window Rock in the community, and then we're also able to help with policy and how that might fit into a school or a community or whatnot. So we do have a fairly active collaboration with the agencies down in Window Rock and our local leaders here off the Navajo Nation as well. Unique partnership I wanted to mention was a home building project that this was with San Juan College building students, and so their students built 2 of these houses. They got a chance to learn how to do framing, drywall, plumbing, electrical work. This is a 400 square foot home that we really needed for graduate students and visiting students from Las Cruces, our main campus. And so we were able to partner up with the buildings program and get this constructed. We had it craned over. This was quite an event. I'm really kind of amazed how we actually were able to pull it off. But it's sort of a model now for us, and what, the insulation is phenomenal. It's like an R30 minimum, and so we're trying to move into that, demonstration of sustainable living as well. So it's not just really all agriculture, it's all sort of interlinked. So there's a shot of the house. We have our grad students staying here. They're working on a project related to any number of things. They'll drive up from Las Cruces and crash out here. That means we don't have to use funds for hotel lodging or whatever. We don't have to rent an apartment in town. We have had students go abroad and do international work. So this is one example of Katie McCarver, who she went to Nepal and did some work with cauliflower production, and with a women's farming group that had formed a cooperative, and they had not ever really thought of growing cauliflower out of season, but they because of the monsoonal rains. And so this was a pilot project to look at the feasibility of looking at different crops that could penetrate local markets there. And so she was a Peace Corps Masters International student, and it's fairly common for us to have these types of international collaborations here at the Farmington Science Center also. A big part of what we've done is working with drought adapted plants, and these are ornamentals, primarily, some edibles, but we do have a large urban population in Farmington, and it was important to us to, as a unit, to kind of address what could be adapted for urban landscapes in the Farmington Four Corners area. We are a little bit different than Albuquerque, so we came up with this Southwest Plant Selector app. This was also a graduate student that took the lead on organizing the project, but it involved several things like YouTube videos. Those are still around under the Zeri Center YouTube channel. And then the Southwest Plant Selector app is available for download for free on the iPhone. And it's searchable by state and region of the state, and it has a section on what trees require what types of water. But the take-home theme is on this is that we're not just restricting ourselves to corn, alfalfa, potatoes either. We also are trying to address some of these other agriculturally based water use efficient crops, including ornamentals. Of course, we got involved with the Gold King mine spill that was related to our being able to be in the community, working with farmers in the community. So we were able to get into irrigation ditches, and that's where we started that 5 years ago. And so that's been a big part of our portfolio for the last 5 years, is monitoring and kind of looking at going back into these ditches every 5 years, every year. I'm sorry, we go back into these ditches at least once a year when they're dry, and then we also have been collecting soil and plant samples from different fields throughout the valley. This is what an irrigation ditch looks like when it's been drained. It's fairly typical for the valley. It's there are several different companies or community ditches, and each one of them has a little bit different feel or bylaws or management. So but yeah, this kind of an example of what we do also here at the Science Center Farmington. We've been using a lot of the XRF to go and rapidly screen, and we're starting to expand that work into just regular agricultural hypothesis. So this particular machine allows us to do things like cation exchange capacity and that kind of thing. Those are some of the fields that we are expanding more into. I guess I finished up a little bit earlier than I thought. I had 72 slides and I just kind of flipped through them. I can answer any questions from this point forward. How do you feel? I can show you our website.
Well, I'll start going through and looking at some of the questions. We have a few here in our Q&A box that I'll relay to you. Somebody has a few questions, so let me see if just a second. So Bridget Boynak, if you're willing to ask your questions to Kevin himself, would you give me a little hand raise icon? Okay. Okay, here, I'll allow you to talk, Bridget, and then you can ask Dr. Lombard your question. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I can see.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear
Bridget.
you.
Oh, okay. Can you see me too?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know what was going on. I'm happy to ask my questions. I have been interested in finding out more about earthworm castings and how they improve the soil for nutrients, water retention, and things like that. So, have you ever done any studies with earthworm castings?
No, we have not, and that's a very interesting question. And it would be a very interesting study to do. We have dabbled in compost. We have dabbled with the composting. The soils up here where we're at are a little bit different than they're a lot different than the soils down in the San Juan River Valley. And so anything that we can do to improve organic matter is something that we need to be exploring. Anything that we need to be doing to encourage soil health is something that we need to be exploring.
Yes, I guess I first became aware of it when I saw this movie called The Biggest Little Farm, and how they really changed the soil and productivity of a farm that had been mismanaged in California. And they really used a lot of earthworm castings, and it really improved the whole land and how they were able to grow things. So that's where I got my information from.
No, thank you for sharing that. And it's something that, you know, if we can investigate it and devise the hypothesis and get rolling on it, you know, there's nothing stopping us from doing that. So it's a good comment.
Yeah, I guess I can go to my second question. I have always been amazed at how much sunlight there is in New Mexico. And I wonder if it's possible to grow food year-round if there were well-built greenhouses, and if people could do that in their backyards so that they could become more self-sufficient in growing their own food.
So yes, the answer is yes. We have plenty of solar irradiation here, and the hoop houses that we've been working with are kind of low cost on the scheme of things, but they are durable, and they're purchased through a company that we just found their product to be easy to obtain, and you know what we can do with hoop houses, for instance, is extend the growing season on either side of a growing season. And so if you're looking at the beginning of a market garden, you know, in May 15th, we can plant under hoop houses and extend that planting, you know, make our planting date earlier. And that that allows us to have plants that are more mature, faster, that can get into markets more. It's spaced out, and then the same goes at the end of the growing season. So you can stretch the growing season out. You can protect plants from frost, and that's really the key objective, is frost protection with these non-heated passive hoop houses. So yes, it's a good system. And backyard all the way up to large scale are using them here.
And how much longer is the growing season extended to, like a month or 2 months?
Well, from my experience, you're getting at least three weeks to a month on either side of the growing season. And then that's for sensitive crops. And if you mix your crop up with cold season crops like spinach or kale or lettuce, you can grow year round. So it's really kind of a combination of crop selection and the crop protection.
Okay, and thank you. And my third question has to do with drip irrigation, because my understanding is that drip irrigation is actually consuming more water than when it's studied, but I don't exactly understand how this happens.
No, actually, drip is conserving water. There's always pros and cons with any kind of irrigation system that we use here, because you know it's all about, can you afford it for starters, versus what's your objective. Are you growing something that's high value, or are you growing something that's like a field crop, like, you know, a row crop like wheat or barley or corn? Would not be as desirable to set up under drip as something like tomatoes or a specialty crop or woody perennial or tree crops. So most of our work here with drip is more on the perennial crops. We do some annual crops under drip, and you're getting very precise placement of water, 1 gallon per hour. You can dial in where that water goes directly to the plant. Your weeding's less. the downside of drip is you have to filter. So you have to filter out the dirty water to make it work. And no matter what water type you're using, you always have to have filtration, and it's expense, and it's also plastic. So most of the drip has a very long longevity. So, you know, you can go 20 plus years on some or more with some of the drip tubing that's out there. So there's recycling options for drip that should be explored more here, and for the greenhouse plastics as well. But in places like California, you do have recycling options there for this type of agriculture. I see some other questions too.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I should just go down the list here with the questions. Like, the name of the company for the hoop houses that we've been using is Greenhouse Megastore, and it's runs about $2,500 to $3,000 for the kit. So we found that they would be they're a little bit more expensive than building something out of PVC. PVC is fine. That's a very cheap way of building a backyard hoop house, but it's not going to hold up in the wind. We have very strong winds here, and so going with something that's a metal frame is recommended. What else can I answer? The future, Mark?
Yeah, of course. Just a second here. Yeah, I see back up at the top, one of our first questions that we got was from Sue Small, and she wanted to know who and how is groundwater quantity or quality tracked for these projects of NMSUs. Any info re overall aquifer status in the area?
So I can't really speak of the aquifer status. You know, the name of the game is to try to dial in the irrigation as precisely as possible. So that's where the weather station data comes into play. That's where the soil moisture probes. That's one method that we're using to track the water. And so the soil moisture probes, for instance, that my colleague Dr. Kofi Jauman's working on, and you know, he'd be happy to answer questions directly. If you wanted to email us. You can email me at klombard@nmsu.edu, and I can try to forward these questions on. But soil moisture probes will allow you to see where that water has moved through the profile, and you can actually, you know, see it through an electrical current that's generating a graph, and that sort of helps you to turn the water off when you're getting to that saturation point. Anything that, you know, when we're watering, we're overwatering, we're leaching, we're running the risk of leaching water. We're wasting water for starters, and then we're also running the risk of leaching fertilizers or other inputs, which is, you know, has a way of like not only not good for the environment, but it's also an expense that has to be incurred by the grower. So these are technologies that the weather station and the soil moisture probes. Now, in the past, we've done some projects where we've had to take, looking at sewage sludge applications, composted sewage sludge. We did some collections with any kind of leaching that may be occurring. No leaching was occurring. We have a project that's being done at a refinery that's being restored, reclaimed, and there's some leaching tests going on there. That's with a private company. So yeah, I hope I'm answering your question. It's definitely more work. We need to throw more effort at this. That's going to be the water. You know, as everyone knows around here, water is the limiting factor.
All right. I wanted to see if there were any other questions that some of our attendees wanted to use the hand raise function to ask Dr. Lombard. Okay, let's see. I see we have one. Just a moment. Dennis McQuillan. All right, you're up. You can ask Kevin your question.
Okay, hi Kevin, that was a terrific presentation. I was wondering if any of your test fields are USDA certified organic?
So very good question. Right now we have one section that is approximately, I want to say it's approximately 5 acres. I think it might be just a little bit bigger than that. That is, we're working on transitioning it to a certified organics. That is an important thing that that we recognize, is to have plots that get treated a little bit differently, to help advise those growers that are in certified organics. And our next presenters will talk about their, I'm sure they'll talk about their program as well. So yes, that section of the farm is being transitioned over right now.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from our attendees using the hand raise function? Just want to see if there's anybody else there who might want to ask Dr. Lombard a question. I guess I'll put one to you, Kevin, and one to our attendees as well, because I think that this is something that I think many of them could also answer if they want to do so in the chat box. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the kind of elephant in the room, and how the coronavirus pandemic has influenced the work that you're doing at the Ag Science Center, and what you kind of see in the future as well. Some of the changes and things like that will be happening at the center.
Yeah, so coronavirus has been a very disrupting force internally for our unit. We had to staff down like everyone else did very quickly. We were tracking things and trying to prepare as much as possible, but you know, everyone went home in one day. We staffed down to 2 to 3 essential personnel, myself included. So it's, you know, I guess my experience has been very different than most of my peers who have been working from home, which presents other challenges. So I've been working from here, and, you know, I've had to hone my backhoe skills, you know, doing projects that require breaks, like water line breaks and that kind of stuff. That, yeah, it's been very interesting. You know, I think in terms of agriculture in general, we kind of saw how in the beginning the rush on the grocery store shelves and the vulnerability of our food systems has been one of the silver linings about the coronavirus. Is you know, it's kind of helped us to maybe examine where we can look at some of these gaps, or, you know, strengthen them, the food systems, and what we're doing, what we're doing here and how it relates to the food systems. But yeah, I mean, right now we're staffed down. Fortunately, agriculture is a great field to be in during a pandemic because you're outside, and the science has shown that the transmission of coronavirus is limited out of doors. So I want to encourage all the students out there that are thinking of a profession out of doors that they might want to consider agriculture. So that's a silver lining as well. I feel good to be in the field. You know, I'd rather be out in the field right now. So anyways, that's my perspective.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question. I see somebody raised their hand. Okay, Luis Aguirre, you should be able to ask your question. You just have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I heard you mention hemp during your talk. What's the future of hemp here in New Mexico?
Yeah, you know, hemp is in its infancy here. A lot of people went into hemp last year what I would consider very risky because we just don't know enough about it scientifically. The science hasn't caught up. I mean, hemp in New Mexico has a long history, like hemp in the United States. It's been legal, it's been illegal, and now it's legal again. So the regulations are kind of catching up. The science of how is it performing in different climates is starting to catch up. We still have a long ways to go, in my opinion, about, you know, to build up a long-term research and development program on it will help answer some questions. I did mention that Dr. Emmanuel Amonde will be starting next month, and he's going to be our hemp specialist. He'll have statewide duties. So, you know, he'll be an example of a faculty member based in Farmington, but will be driving all around the state to visit with farmers who are interested in hemp. And, you know, our goal is not really to tell people what they should grow in a sense, and more it's to develop tools to make growers make informed decisions and try to make the mistakes for growers, you know. And so if we can make the mistakes for a grower on planting density or weed control or whatever like that, you know, that's where we need to be putting a lot of effort in right now. I don't want to discourage anybody from hemp. I will caution that, you know, it's like any other crop you're looking at, make sure you know what the market is, the end goal, what's your end goal, what's your market, and know what the risks are associated with it. It is a regulated crop in New Mexico. You have to have targets for the THC, which is the narcotic, you know, when it goes above 0.3%, it goes into the narcotic category. So that has implications for field destruction. And, you know, it's just like the chili pepper industry. We want to have the best quality product for consumption. And so I'm just rambling now on it. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about the work here or what you saw in the presentations or hemp. You know, feel free to reach out. Hope I answered your question.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you everyone for your questions. Yeah, great presentation. And I would just like everyone to, again, think about that question. If you want to contribute in the chat, you know, what are the ways that coronavirus has impacted your work, whether it's research or other fields of work. If you want to share in the chat, feel free, and we can share some of these after our next presentation that I'm really happy to get to now. So we're going to be hearing a presentation from the wonderful staff at the Navajo Agricultural Products Industry. Let me bring them in now so they can talk a little bit more about the wonderful work that they're doing. Let's see, are you all there?
Okay, yes, this is Ray. Let me start the video. Okay, you see us?
Yep, I can see you.
All right then. Hi everyone. So this is Ray. I'm Ray DeGroat, PR coordinator here at NAPI. And we have several presenters that will be here with us. And we'll alternate as the slide continues. So let me go ahead and view the slide. Hold on. 1 second. Can everyone see that? Okay. Everyone see that? Okay.
It looks good to me. Thumbs up in the chat if you can see the presentation.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll go ahead and start with each presenter presenting themselves or introducing themselves. We'll go ahead and start with Davidson Sosi with our KNIT project.
Nice to meet you. Hello, everyone. My name is David Sosi, and I'm with the O&M. So I'll be doing the water portion and the size of our project. All right, if you want me to start now. Can you hear me? All right, let's see. So here's some quick information. I don't know if the videos, on my screen, it looks like our faces are blocking part of the text, but basically it just explains how our project started. It actually started through the Winters Doctrine, and that's kind of, we got it kickstarted with New Mexico on that Tama River diversion project. I'm sure many of you know that type of information already. Anyways, today we have 508,000 acre feet of water usage available to us. I believe we're just using just over 200,000 acre feet of water annually. And our build out currently is about 72,000 acres right now. So we're not completely done with the build out of our project. The project began in 1964, as you can see there. I think the construction started in the 1970s. And it's still going on today. So I hit down. All right, here's a map of our project and the boundary. You can kind of see in the upper right, it kind of goes counterclockwise. That's block 1. And then it goes to the top. On the north end of the farm, it's like the orange color. That's block 2, 3. It just kind of sweeps around like counterclockwise. Actually, you can see right there on the legend. And you can see on the bottom, we haven't developed the light blue and the gray areas yet. So that's our build out right now. And we're in the process of doing block 9, stage 2, which is that lime green color. And you can see part of our canal is not built down there yet in the south parts. All right, for this information is about our built out our farm right now. You can see currently we have installed 90 miles of concrete line canals that flows about 1,800 CFS through our main canal. And it kind of shrinks down as we divert water off the canal through our pumping plant system. And then you can see we have 13 miles of tunnels and siphons. We have 7 miles. And then 340 miles of laterals, 84 pumping plants. And I think there's might be 78 pumping plants we're using today. And here's a graphic we always show our visitors. NAPI is a Navajo Nation enterprise. And the water is kind of divided up in the BIA/Bureau Reclamation, like the government side of the water. And you can see it comes into the canal system. It's actually diverted off Navajo Reservoir. And it comes into our canals, and you can see there's a graphic right there. It says the pumping plant, the tanks, and the delivery unit is the dividing line. O&M, the pipe that leaves the delivery unit is transferred right to NAPI, and that'll go to the center pivot. And as far as I'm aware, I think we only have 1 side rail filled right now. Let's see, here's our control center at the NAPI headquarters. We have our wireless communication towers that communicates with our SCADA system. And you can see all those, the double screens up there. You can see we control some of our NAPI, our mechanics, and our electricians on the left side of the screen. And these 2 stations right here, they pretty much monitor everything, all the pumping plants, the status. And there's right directly behind these guys, there's a control center called 700. They control the NAPI side of the pivots and all that. All right, this is one of our departments, technical services. It's actually a technical services / on-farm development. The technical services side, they deal with the NAPI side of that, the right side of that line. These guys are doing a pivot install right now with the pivot rehab. They're laying the electrical utility line right there on that spool. That might be a 10-inch pipe, 10-inch PVC, looks like. And I know they go lower than 3 feet on those. Let's go to the next one. This is the operation and maintenance. This is the department I'm part of. I'm probably actually the guy taking the picture. The siphon pipe, I think, is a 210-inch right here. You can see all that debris in there and the diameter of this pipe. It's part of that system that flows that 1,800 CFS. And that incline in front of them is probably like almost 30%. It's pretty steep. And you can see what type of tools we're bringing there with our, we're doing distance measurement and trying to photograph everything that we can. sometimes we have to replace the sills in there. That's what we're looking for on this walkthrough right now. This is our ag lab. Is the name here? The representative. All right, I'll cover the part of this. So let me see if I can get this so you guys can see some of the text. Let me move this over. Ready? Oh, there's Danae. You want to talk in your lap?
Sorry, hold on 1 second.
There you go. All right. She has a thing right here, right where my hand is.
Good afternoon. My name's Danae John. I'm the HRL manager. And so for the laboratory, we perform a variety of tests regarding soil, tissue, and water. We monitor the quality for all of our crops. And so also we monitor the mycotoxins on our grain, such as corn and wheat. And we work with the agronomists to make sure that the quality of the soil, the water, and the tissue are within compliance. And then the agronomist from there will determine what the fertilizer applications need to be. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, as a reminder, if anybody would like to ask questions, you can either do so in the Q&A or I guess if you'd like to take a question or two now, if anybody would like to, if there's a hand raise. Okay, well, no one for now, but keep your questions in mind, and we can get. Oh, I think we have one question here. Just a moment. Sue Small wants to know, what mycotoxins are you seeing?
We determine vomitoxin in corn and then aflatoxin in wheat.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, you guys. I'm the Director of Sales of NAPI. And the slide that you see there is part of our mission. Each company across, and I'm sure that your company is doing the same thing too, you have a mission and also values of your company. For ours, this is our mission, continue the legacy of Navajo farming. It goes from individuals being planted out in the dirt all the way up to our farmers currently, and also producing superior products. And that's what we're passionate about, producing all that quality that we can. Practicing stewardship from the water, from the infrastructures, the buildings, down to the soil health, everything that belongs to NAPI. We make sure that we're practicing great stewardship on that. As well, creating value for our people as well, not just the Navajos. There's also surrounding our community, which is Farmington and also San Juan County, New Mexico as well, and also the states. So. And then the slide that you see is part of our infrastructures here. First, on the left-hand top side is our feedlot, which we hold about 900 head of cattle that we can hold there. The next building is our lab building, which is the nave that she was just talking about. It houses all our crop managers in there and also our agronomists and also the lab. So they're housed in that area, so they will be working together. And the far right is our flour mill, which is in full production right now. And also at the bottom, we have our bean plant, which we do processing, packaging, same thing with our popcorn plant. And right in the middle is our pellet mill, which right now we're processing our feed, our grain, our four-way, and all that stuff with to do with the grain with corn. And also it's in production and getting ready is our alfalfa pellet mill as well. And the next slide is going to be, our next area is going to be our fresh pack, where our potato stock potatoes is being processed, packaged as well, and washed. That's our conventional and also organic program in that. And I'll hand it over to the crop managers. They'll be talking about the crop production.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Naz. I run the bean production here at NAPI Farm. And I'm going to be going through a couple of crops here. And the first one I'd like to go through is the alfalfa. So we do grow and we grow our own alfalfa for feedlots, and we have approximately 15,000 acres of alfalfa. We bale them in 3-twine and also in 1-ton bales. A majority of the big bales go to dairy farms. We also have local ranchers and local people who have livestock. They purchase those 3-twine bales. And we'll go to the corn. We have majority of our corn here grown on the farm is feed corn. So the majority is just meaning that we also grow traditional corn. So that's for human consumption and not for cows. And we grow number 2 feed corn, and a lot of it goes to Chicago Board of Trade and also distribute to Lansing and Grain. Okay, sorry. And then we got our beans. So we do produce and we process all of our own beans. They go through a triple cleaning process, and we baggage our beans in 1 pound, 5 pounds, 10, 20, and also 50 and 100 pounds. And also we sell bulk that are in tote bags. And we distribute locally to nationally, and we are Global Gap certified, so we can sell at wholesale markets. And then we have table stock potatoes, about 120 acres of potatoes. We do. We also produce and we process all our own potatoes here on the farm. So NAPI has about 600,000 symmetric weight worth of potato storages, and they're also certified by Global Gap. And do you guys have any questions for me at the moment?
Let's see if anybody would like to ask a question. Please use the hand raise function, and I'll allow you to ask your question.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and we'll go to Shane Neswood, and he'll continue with other crops.
Good afternoon, Shane. So I'll be going over the organic, small grains, and native foods. So the organic, we plant the organic melons, squash, oats and peas, and triticale. So down there we do a rotation. So we have about like 2,200 acres that we rotate oats and peas and triticale mix. Some of them are spring mix, some of them are winter mix. And we also have a plot of 85 acres that are watermelon, squash. We're also doing different trials down there. And those ones are all ran by drip irrigation. And then the small grains, right now we have close to 6,700 acres of small grains. We're getting ready to be harvesting in the next month. We'll be harvesting the week after July 4th. And with that, we ship all our, well, some of our wheat to New Mexico Milling. And New Mexico Milling is, operates Navajo Pride Flour. The Navajo Pride Flour is right next to NMSU, the Science Center. And with that, at our scales, we have our native Pride products. So in there we have our all-purpose flour, our whole wheat flour, and our fried bread mix that goes with all the wheat that we process here. And also we distribute to Lansing Grain. And then our next one is native foods. So that one we grow blue corn, white corn, yellow corn, and sumac berries. And we also have green chili that are under hoop houses. And then our cedar ash that we use from the juniper trees. So with that one right now, we have green chili. They're almost ready. They're about 80%. So we'll be doing our first picking the week after July 4th. And then as far as the blue and white yellow corn, we'll be processing that. It should be ready by October, November. And then as far as the sumac berries, right now they have 2 plots. So we'll be harvesting one field in the June, and then another field in July. Those are all hand-picked. So going back to conservation, so with conservation, we have several projects that we do. We work with the NRCS and also the FSA on some programs. So right now we have, we currently have an active contract with the CSP, the Conservation Stewardship Program. So we have 5 activities on there. One of them, as you see right here, is tree shrubs. So we do replants of shrubs and trees. That's one of our activities that we do. Next one is the cover crop. So some of the cover crop that we do, we try new seed varieties that work well with on NAPI. And also we plant cover crop such as like spring peas, sorghum Sudan, hay grazer, just depending on which fallow fields are needed. So some of those fallow fields will have some cover on there to provide cover and then also to bring that soil health up. And with that, we usually graze it out to help some of our Navajo ranchers. These are some of our restoration projects. So on the left, you'll see like our prairie dog damage. So what we'll do in thereafter is we'll plant a sorghum Sudan. You can see this is a before and after. So the one on the left side is a hay grazer that was planted June 5th, and to the right is where we did our replants. So our replants came in another 35 days later, and the whole thing, we get back our acres, and then we pushed back on the prairie dogs. Prairie dogs is one of our big concerns up here. And I'll let Vince go over the contractors. Thank you.
Hello again, guys. Well, first of all, we, as a big company, have 72,000 acres. We also participate in some of our contractors leasing out some of our areas and some of our land out here. So first one is Navajo Mesa, which is chippers. They are in contract with Frito-Lay, so they're from here and also in Casa Grande and up towards the Yuma area. So they're in partnership with them with Frito-Lay, so that chipper potatoes come out from here, from NAPI. Then we also have Anderson Hay, which their expertise is export hay. So we also do export hay as well too. So their hay goes all across the Asian market, Japan, Saudi Arabia. So it's all coming from the Navajo Nation here as well. Then you also have New Mexico Milling, which is in partnership. We work together with them to process. We hired them to process and run that mill for us, the flour mill that we have. Wilbur Alice is one of our big contractors too. We have a plant here that we leased out to them. So they house all our fertilizer, pesticide, everything that the farmers are needing right here. As we have so many acres, we need all that product here rather than being transported here. So it's here for our uses. If we order today, we can have them being applied as early as tomorrow, even this afternoon. Then we also have the pumpkin patch fundraising, which they were here also. And they do all the pumpkins and everything from that one goes east from here. A lot of churches take those pumpkins. Then the other one is also popcorn, enchanted popcorn, and that's being processed here as well too. So they're underneath their own brand. But we also have these contractors that we work with. And for NAPI, it's part of our learning curve where we also have some of our employees work with them and then vice versa too. We learn from them, and we also take this big working relationship that we have, and then we bring them back to NAPI and use their expertise as well too. So those are the contractors. And I'll give it to Ray for that last.
Okay, does anyone have, do anyone have questions so far?
Yes, looks like we have a question from Carmen Rodriguez. I'm going to allow you to talk here to ask your question.
Okay.
All right, go right ahead. Oh, you might be on mute, Carmen.
Hey, can you hear me?
Perfect. There you are.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Very good information. Regarding your melons and your popcorn and your pumpkin patch and all the vegetables that you have, the chili, is it available for the local public, or do you sell it in stores or markets, or if people wanted some of that, is it only for the? I mean, I'm just curious where you sell it and if it's available.
Yes, actually, we have that available to the public. We do have 2 store locations on the farm. There's Region 2 scales as well as our farm scale. At this time, due to the COVID-19, we did reduce the number of hours for Region 2 scales, and we're currently closed at farm scales. But we do have several locations in the Farmington area that sells our products, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to our sales coordinator to go ahead and give you some more information on that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanya. I'm the sales coordinator here with NAPI. Such a great question. It's definitely something that we are striving to do, is to put our product into the local stores. Here in Farmington, we have our organic vegetables and fruits that go into natural grocers. And the other products are the conventional products we sell to our farmers market here in our surrounding areas, which is Flora Vista and Bloomfield. Our next focus would be locally in New Mexico. This year, we're hoping to put our products within Whole Food stores in the Rocky Mountain region, which includes New Mexico and part of Texas. And the potatoes as well is where we're going to be going. So those are the focal points that we'll have our products available. Like Ray mentioned, we'll have it locally here on the farm as well for everyone to purchase. And then the other local chain that local chain is a larger chain is Walmart. We're looking to partnership with them. They have a program where they want to have local produce within their markets, and that's a source that we're going to try to put a majority of our potatoes. Yep, so if you have any other questions in regards to that, I'd be happy to help.
I'm not sure. I see that we have one person whose hand is raised, Melissa May, so I'm going to permit you to talk.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Melissa, how can I help you?
Hi there. I was wondering, you mentioned the feedlot at NAPI, and I was wondering where your cattle go for processing after you raise them, and if NAPI's been affected at all by some of the meat processing shortages and things like that with COVID that have been happening around the nation.
Great question. Let me get Vince to get you that answer here. Hold on just a second.
Okay, most of the cattle that's coming here is all from the Navajo Nation and some local areas. So our production is just a feeding and a holding storage here. So most of those cattle coming here, we feed them to get them up to size, and they're being auctioned off. So this feed here doesn't go to no market. Most of these are just the local cattle and ranchers that we have here. So, and the impact on that one is just the forage part. Same thing with the alfalfa, it's just with the dairies, as the restaurants and the retail and the food services completely stopped. All that products that was going into those stores completely stopped too at the dairy. So the dairies has been really mainly affected, and that's our biggest market, which is the alfalfa. But again, just lately they have been rebounding, and as the restaurants starting to open back, everything's starting to, the demand's starting to show, and then we're just waiting for the food storage or the education system to start back up too as well. So that's where most of the products will go. But for the feedlot here, that one just goes out to the regular feedlots and just the smaller mom and pop shops, those slaughterhouses, nothing big on that part. Nothing like JBS. I know they're being affected big time, but ours, feedlot is not. So, any other questions on that?
No, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Hey, thank you so much. I see we have a question here for your sales coordinator again. Kenneth is wondering if you have any of your products available through online stores or marketplaces.
Currently, we do not have anything available on our online stores. It's definitely an avenue that we are exploring. Should we have that available, it definitely will be on our website to showcase all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions that our participants want to ask? If I see a raised hand, I'll try to get to you and relay your question.
Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and move on with our presentation here. And so the next slide is more, I guess it's directed towards our contingency plan here at NAFI. And our goal here is to try to recruit as many people back to the farm and have them work for us. So we have a partnership with NMSU, and it's our Scholars Program. With this program, we're actually looking for individuals that are interested in agriculture, business, or engineering. And we try to have them enter into this internship. What they receive with it is a $2,500 per semester, which could be used for tuition, fees, and books at NMSU. And they have to be attending the main campus in Las Cruces. When they do come back for the internship during their summer breaks or winter breaks, they'll be paired up with one of our managers, depending on what field their interest is in. And they'll just work alongside them and kind of learn what we're doing here on the farm. And once they complete their school, they'll have a full-time employment job or employee. They'll have a job here waiting for them upon graduation. And also, since we shared all the information about our contractors, they also have that opportunity to work with other industries within ag, just to kind of develop their training for that. So that's one program that we have. And another educational opportunity that we do have as well is the paid summer internship. And with that, it's open to all college students, undergraduates. And again, they would have to have a focus on business, ag, or engineering. And there's just a list of all the different areas that we're trying to hire back. And it's just to help us with our overall goals and objectives here on the farm. So this usually lasts between June 1st, August 7th for this year. We start recruiting between January through March. And as for the last one, the NMSU, we don't have a deadline for that. We're continuously promoting that program, and we're really trying to get as many applicants as we can for that. So that's pretty much everything that we have on our slideshow. Do you have any more questions out there for any one of us?
Let me see. So I'll throw to the attendees again. If anybody wants to ask a question to the team at NAPI, just let me see a raised hand, and I'll throw it over to you. Okay, Ray. It doesn't look like there's any other questions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, I guess, for listening to our presentation. We can provide our contact information by email. And I can go ahead and provide that to Mr. Shealy. Just in case you think of a question later on, we can get you in touch with either our engineer, our ATRL manager, our crop managers, or our sales department. So thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ray, and thank you to the rest of the team that was able to present and share the work that you're doing there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, not so soon. So the last thing that I wanted to do today is, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be, throughout this webinar series, doing some giveaway prizes to our registrants. And so while the other presentations were going on, we did our first 2 drawings. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be giving away today a copy of 100 Years of Water Wars in New Mexico, 1912 to 2012, edited by former NMWRI program manager Kathy Ortega-Klett. And we'll also be giving away a N.M. Weary stainless steel water bottle. So based on the first 2 drawings, the water bottle we have going to Mr. Wade Holdeman. I think I saw him in the attendees here today. That's the other thing, is to make sure you have to be present to claim your quote unquote door prize. And our copy of Water Wars will be going to Henry Bullock, who I also see here on the guest list here today. So thank you so much for attending, for registering, and don't worry if you didn't get a prize today. We'll be doing plenty more throughout the week, but we'll be reaching out and getting the shipping information so we can get those items to you as soon as possible. With that, I want to again thank all of our presenters. Kevin Lombard at the NMSU Ag Science Center at Farmington, and the crew at NAPI. Thank you so much, everybody, for being able to present and share the wonderful work that you're doing, in spite of us not being able to be there in person. But it's really great to see the turnout for this. Typically for our pre-conference field trips, we'll get anywhere from maybe 30 to 40 people, and I think at the most we had just under 100 attending this webinar today. So really great to see that in some ways we can reach out and allow more people to see these presentations and this content. And with that, I'll say thank you for this first day, and we really look forward to seeing you tomorrow and throughout the rest of our Animas and San Juan Watersheds Week. So thank you so much, and everyone have a great rest of your day. Oh, and before we go, I just wanted to, before I forget, I want to also give a big thank you as well. Something new that we are trying for this webinar series is we wanted to make our presentations more accessible. And so I want to give a big thank you to Emily Peroni and Emily Newberry for providing ASL interpretation for any deaf or hard of hearing attendees. So big thank you to you as well. They'll be sticking around and providing interpretation throughout the webinar as well. So with that, for real this time, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of this webinar series.